Aloha! Today is an exciting day because I am going to attempt to deflask my first orchid flask. I'm pretty excited about it. So the species of orchid here, it is part LCN, which is a mix of Laelia, Cattleya, and Goranthia, which are all things that essentially either are or used to be Cattleya. So Laelia is now back into the Cattleya genus, and Goranthia got separated out from Cattleya at some point. So essentially, it's a red Cattleya type orchid mixed with Cattleya amethystoglossa, which is kind of generally a white flower with pink spots on it. So it should be interesting. These will all be slightly different, just genetically like brothers and sisters. So I'll probably get some that are straight red. I'll probably get maybe some with white with pink or red spots, and everything in between. I might get red with dark spots. Who knows? It'll be really fun to see what they turn out looking like. Hopefully, as long as I do a really good job deflasking this flask. I watched quite a few videos on it, and I'm still a little bit unclear because it seems like everybody does it a little bit differently. So we'll see how it works out, and you guys will get to follow along on the journey and watch, months from now and see how they've done. I have a bowl of water here that I will soak these guys in after I pull them out. Has just a little bit of fly sand mixed into it to keep any fungus at bay, because fungus is a really common issue for these little tiny baby orchid seedlings. And like I said, looked at a lot of people who did this. Some of them were able to get the plants out without breaking the flask. Others took a hammer to the flask. So I don't know yet how that will work. So let's go for it. So I'm gonna pull this rubber band off, second rubber band off, and the plastic over the top. Now I just have a cork here that comes off really easily. The flask is open. That's exciting stuff. Now, I feel like I could either take long tweezers or I can put a little bit of water into it and see if I can start to break down that medium. Oh yeah, that's coming. That's swirling around in there now. So, as that breaks down, they may just come out of there, or they may not. We'll see. Oh yeah, look, that is starting to come loose in there. Can you see? Yeah, it's starting to come loose. So I think if I do that a little more and try to break down that media, I can then maybe get them to come out without breaking this flask. I don't really want to break it just because, well, I'm in my kitchen and it'll make a mess, and I don't really want to deal with broken glass. So see. I think I might want to let that just kind of sit and break down the media for a little bit, because I think it looks like it could come out of there pretty easily if I let it break down a little bit. Okay. I'm going to let that sit for a few minutes, so I'm going to pause this and let it sit for a few minutes and see if that'll break down. Okay, that seems like it's working pretty well. This is fairly broken down. So what I'm gonna do first is put them into this bowl here, because I don't really think I want all of that media to go down the drain at once. Okay, some of them are coming out. I feel like I'm maybe breaking a few roots here, but oh, see, there's one little plant. Can you see that little guy? He's so cute. Okay, I'm trying to be careful. Oh, there's a big glob of them. Oh, I might want a little more water in here. Oh, they're coming. That's a big plant. Maybe two plants, I can't tell. But I'm gonna get all that media off and some of these dead leaves off before I put them in the fly sand solution, and let them sit probably about 10 minutes in that before I start. Oh, I broke a root off from somebody. which I guess isn't shocking. I think that's gonna happen a little bit. Ooh, there's a couple of babies. Ooh, that's a big one. It's a nice looking, it's little, but it's a nice looking one with a good root system. It's a big one right here too. I still don't really know how many are in here. I would guess probably maybe 25 or 30, but we'll see how many I come up with in the end. There's a huge size range in here. I can tell some of them are itty bitty and some of them are pretty darn big. So, oh, I've almost got them all out without breaking the flask, which is nice. I don't have to worry about broken glass in my kitchen, which is pretty nice. Okay, they're all out of there. In the sink, and now I have a little tub full of orchids that I'm gonna just kind of rinse before I put them into the Fizan water solution. So I think I'm just gonna try to separate them out and get the media off of them, and maybe any little, there's some, like, can you see that little dead leaf right there? I'm gonna pick that guy off. I think I'm gonna grab some tweezers because I can't quite just pull that off. I've got tweezers right over here. Throw them at the camera. All right, so, oh my gosh, they're kind of all stuck together. This is probably gonna take me quite a while because I don't know how many plants I have, but the media looks pretty cleaned off of this little guy. Okay, so that guy is going to be the first one to go into the solution. And this is going to take a while, so I guess some of them are just going to soak longer than others, and I don't think that's really a problem. I think that should be okay. Because I am for sure not going to remember which ones went in there first. Get that one little leaf. I want this little brown leaf off of there. There we go, I got it off. So this is one of the bigger plants. It looks pretty good. I guess that's actually two plants that kind of grew in together. I don't know if I want to separate them or not. There's actually three there. And I might just leave them all together because I don't know that separating them is going to work. So I might just plant them up together. There's another one that's got a nice long root on it. It's pretty cool. Okay. Oh, you hear the parrots flying over? Parrots fly over every day. Usually between about noon and 2 p.m. It's 1:15 right now, so right on time, I guess. Okay. That one looks good. Okay, I'm gonna pause and continue this because this is probably gonna take me at least half an hour, and y'all don't wanna watch me do this for half an hour. I am still working away here. I might be maybe close to halfway finished. I think I have maybe around 18 or 20 seedlings. I've been trying to keep track, but it's a little tough because there's a lot, and sometimes it takes a good minute to get all those little roots that are dead and leaves that are dead off of here. So there we go. That guy's ready now. Okay, now I pretty much got all of the little cakeys out of there. I'm Oh, might be big enough to save, I don't know. I deemed most of these just not big enough to try to worry about. The chances of them making it are so little, since they're so tiny. So this is just essentially trash. I'll drain out the water and put the media and the little scrappies in the trash, and I am almost ready to separate out the little kikis from the water and Fizan mixture. Now I am ready to take these plants out of the little Fizan mixture and lay them over here to dry a little bit before I'm ready to pot them up. So I'm gonna try to arrange them from biggest to littlest and try to pot them up that way, just to make it a little bit easier for me to keep track of what's what. And I will show you these guys once I'm done here, figuring out, trying to pull out what's bigger and what's littler. It's not actually that easy. It kind of mixed together a little bit in here. Like this is for sure two plants that might come apart. I don't want to break them though. Eek. Maybe I'll just leave those guys together. I don't think they want to come apart. Seeing if those aren't going to come apart, then that's a bigger plant too. That's a nice looking plant. Okay, again, I'm going to pause so that you don't have to sit here for 15 or 20 minutes while I do this. All right, I got pretty much all of them out. You can see I left a few in here just because I think they're too little to actually survive. And what I ended up with, you can see here, I've got, I guess, about 10 rows of 5 with a few extras up there at the top that are, well, extra tiny. I don't know if they'll make it or not. Now I'm actually ready to start potting these little babies. I'm going to start with a mix of Orchid bark and number 3 perlite. And then I'm going to finish off with sphagnum moss. I've already moistened this up so it's nice and moist for the plants. Don't want that in there, do I? So I'm going to start with about half the cell full of the perlite bark mixture. This one might need a little less than that. And I'm going to try to fit all the roots in there, and then put sphagnum moss around it so that it can drain well but still stay damp enough for those little roots. I want to keep the leaves above the sphagnum moss so that they don't stay too wet, but the roots down in that moss. Almost done with number 1. Again, I will do most of this with the video on pause so you don't have to sit here for hours while I do this. Hopefully it won't take me hours, maybe an hour. There we go, there's the first one all done. That's the biggest seedling. And I will go from largest to smallest. I believe I have 38 cells in this tray, so I will have to plant a few in some of the smaller ones. I'll just plant 2 or 3 of the seedlings in each one. And this mix is about 2 or 3 to 1 bark to perlite mix. All right, ready for number 2 here. This one has a root that wants to stick up instead of down, so that'll be a little bit of a challenge maybe to get it to stick in the cell right. Trying to keep these mostly in the center of the cell, since I have no idea what direction and how exactly they will grow. Keep those leaves out of the moss. All right, and there's number 2 all done, ready to go. And now I will pause and get to work for a little while and come back. I am getting close to about halfway finished here, and I had to get more sphagnum moss and let it get nice and wet. So I gotta wait a couple minutes to let that get nice and wet. And then I will get started potting again. It's taking a long time. I gotta be really careful with all those tender little roots, so it's taking a while to get each one potted in there. That needs just another minute here to get nice and wet, but not too wet. All right. So I'm getting into the ones that are a little smaller now, which, I don't know, makes it both a little easier and a little harder in some ways. I feel like I have to be more careful with them because they're so tiny, but they fit into the little cells a little bit easier, so maybe in that way it's actually easier with these little tiny ones. I want the roots to stay down in the sphagnum moss and the leaves to be above it, but sometimes it's hard because the roots are kind of growing up into the leaves, which makes it a little difficult. Okay, I'll pause again so you don't have to watch too much of this. I'm super close to finished now, and I packed some of these teeny tiny final ones 3 and 4 to a cell, just in hopes of maybe giving them a chance. I kind of feel like these teeny tiny ones probably won't make it, but I want to give them a chance anyway. So I'm going to finish packing moss around these guys, and then I will let you have a look at the finished product. All right, here's our finished product. Got 38 cells here and about 45 or so plants. These tiny ones on the ends got super hard to plant because they're just so little. It was super difficult to get the little leaves above the moss and the roots down into the moss. I don't know if you can really see that here, but it was a really difficult part of it. The bigger ones were obviously much, much easier to pot up. And now these will hang out here for a few weeks, and I will keep them evenly wet, not evenly damp. I don't want them to get wet or soggy, but they'll stay a little bit wet for quite a while, honestly. And I'll keep an eye on them as they start to grow and do better. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll be able to put them outside in the orchid area and let them get a little bit more light. And we'll see what happens. I know people who, with their first flask, have had great success, and I know people who have had complete failure. So we'll just watch and see what happens now, and I'll give you an update in a week or two.